Hello and welcome to this episode of the Dicebreaker podcast, which is sponsored by Rogue Heroes Ruins of Tassos, the new game from Team 17 and Heliocentric Studios. It's now available on Steam and on Nintendo Switch. Rogue Heroes mixes classic adventure gaming with procedurally generated dungeons and roguelike gameplay for up to 4 players. I mean, we could all play it right now. There's 4 of us right here through online or local multiplayer.
Spoilers.
You can choose from multiple player classes. You can team up with friends to combat procedural dungeons. You can explore an expansive overworld full of secrets. You can rebuild your town, upgrade your character's abilities, and take down the Titans to save the once peaceful land of Tassos. For a limited time, and this is the exciting bit, Dicebreaker podcast listeners can get a 10% discount for Rogue Heroes on PC by visiting the Team 17 store at store.team17.com. And you can use the code DICE10, that's D-I-C-E... Yeah, D-I-C-E 10. Yeah, that's right. I said it right. I did say it correctly. To be a rogue hero. So go on out, get yourself a code, grab yourself a copy of the game, and we'll see you there, hopefully.
Hello and welcome back to the Dicebreaker podcast. This is episode 48. Lolies.
Well, okay, if you're a fan of the podcast and you're a fan of bingo calls, you may have noticed that there is a pattern that happens every 12 numbers. And that has been that it goes a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen. So the bingo call for 48, you guessed it, is 4 dozen.
Wow, that's very useful. Very useful piece of information, bingo. Thanks
This
for that.
series of podcasts has completely reshaped the way I view bingo. Because I always thought they were meant to rhyme. I was like, that's what bingo call is. Little nifty rhyme. Nifty's maybe overstating it a bit much. Rhyme.
One of the most famous ones is Two Fat Ladies, right? 88,
Oh, true, yeah.
which is also not very nice. So
No, yeah.
well, there you go.
All right, well.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yeah, welcome back. I'm Matt Jarvis, of course. I'm the editor-in-chief of Dicebreaker. I'm joined this week by 3 of the team. I'm joined by Alex Lolies. Thank you for being here, Lolies.
Thank you for having me once again. I'm back, baby. Was I here last week? I don't think I was.
Yeah, I think you were. I think it was
okay.
you, me, and me. But you're back again.
Maybe it's been a whole week, but I'm back in the zone.
No, we're very glad to have you here.
I'm fairly sure it was Will's last week because we were talking about Danny DeVito again.
Oh, that's true, yeah. I mean,
I can't believe you've forgotten this, Will.
Like bingo calls, every 4 weeks we must discuss Danny DeVito or...
I remember the phrase hanging dong.
Yeah,
Oh.
you
I
said that a lot.
Look, if we could keep the dong to just one episode...
That isn't our
We're allowed-
context, I think.
Sorry, Matt, it can't be contained.
Like, now we have to mark ourselves up as a very different kind of podcast.
We're allowed 1 dong per episode. Although now I've gone over the limit.
Well, I mean, I've been watching a lot of YouTubers get sponsored by Adam and Eve recently, so maybe if we carry on down this train.
Like Big Ben, we have 1 dong an hour. Also here, Alex Meehan, thanks for joining us.
I'm here.
Great. And of course, Michael Wills, Wheel and Wheels.
And I am also here.
Yeah.
Michael
it's
Wheels
good to-
wheeling wheels. That's a
I'm
new
running
one.
out of variations on Wheels.
Yeah.
It was... Well, I was going to say it was funny at first, but it wasn't very funny at first. And now it's even less funny, but
I can't wait for
I've
Wheels,
committed.
Michael Wheels, Wheeling Wheels.
Ooh.
Wheels...
I just want to... I'm waiting for Hot Wheels.
Oh, Hot Wheels
Yeah.
is good.
That'll be
yeah.
summer.
Twitter handle for a long time.
That'll be summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it starts getting a little bit roasty in here, I will be a Hot Wheels. This flat does not cool in the summer.
This podcast is not sponsored by Hot Wheels.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Get
yet.
in touch,
saying, Matt,
Mattel.
you
Mattel.
Don't just let them come to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to put
Yeah.
the feelers out, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's how it works, right? Is you start just mentioning things, and then they're obligated to
They
sponsor
just
you and
start
give
paying
you money. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's how it works. We're of course here to talk about this week's board games, tabletop RPGs, all things what go on a table, or kind of more likely at the moment, sometimes a screen as well. Let's kick off with even what we've been playing this week. Let's go in reverse order. Wheels, what have you been playing lately?
Well, Matt, you should know because we together played Lost Cities.
Yes,
by Reiner
we
Knizia.
did.
For anyone who's not aware, we have a new series on the YouTube channel called You've Never Played, which is kind of like an excuse for us to go back to some of the classics, some of like the big name games that we wouldn't necessarily mention because, you know, we're keeping up with the fresh modern board games the
We're
hot
down
new
with the
ones.
kids.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you do, fellow kids? We play board games too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a chance for us to kick back and look back and see some of the fantastic previous titles that have existed and that some of us, for some reason, haven't got around to play. This case, it was Lost Cities by Rainer Knizia. Rainer Knizia, if you're not familiar with him, the king of maths.
Yeah.
He has made
the bad
about
boy.
1,000 billion trillion board games.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
main
It's
fact about Rainer Knizia.
I think the fact is, if you stack every game that Rainer Knizia has ever made on top of each other, it like reaches the sun or something like that. I think that's the.
He's the bad boy of tabletop. That's all you need to know.
That's what they call him. He wears his cute little bow ties.
He does.
He's not a bad boy. He's
Yeah.
a sweet boy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's really nice.
He's a good boy. But anyway, Lost Cities is one of his games. It's got a very loose theme, Matt.
Yeah, it's very Knizia-esque in that way of clearly the gameplay came first, then they were like, what should this be about? Well, I don't know, archaeology? Yeah, that'll do. Put that on it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I quite like the Knizia-esque is like Kafka-esque, in which, you know, you can just apply it to anything. It just sounds smart, but in board game terms.
That's all I do is I just put esque on the end of random words, and that makes me sound 10% more
Yeah,
intelligent.
it's very Matt Jarvis-esque, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so it's basically like it's kind of like a gambling game almost. So you're starting each round with like 5 colours in front of you, which represent the 5 suits. There's basically, imagine a deck of cards, but they've added another suit on top. So you get 10 number cards and then 3 cards, which in this case are called wagers, but would be, you know, your Jack, Queen, or King. And essentially you're trying to play them in ascending order, not mattering about the gaps, as long as the next card that you play on the same colour is a higher value than the one that you played before. And then at the end of the round, you collate all of the values of the cards into one sort of score, and then you score that many points. The trick being, though, this sort of stack of cards that you're forming in each colour is like an excavation. It's like a dig that you're praying for, and you need to pay for those. So you actually only turn a profit on those digs if you score more than 20 points. Otherwise, you start minusing points instead. So I think, is it that if you say you scored 15, you would actually lose 15 rather than gain it? Is that the idea, Matt?
Yeah, so as soon as you put any card on a dig, it's worth minus 20 points, and for each card you play, the value of that card is added to that. So you need to play a total of cards worth 20 or more points.
Yeah,
but if you play 8 or more cards, it's worth 20 by default. So you then...
Right.
I just remembered that I have actually played this.
It's good. It's really good.
Quite a few years ago. So
Yeah.
no, I remember enjoying it.
So you basically you have a hand of cards, and it will be, you know, in different colours with different values on them, and you're sort of waiting for the perfect moment to play that card. And the theme that really gives it that little bite, just that little tasty, but makes it real Knizia-esque.
Just a little knits.
Just a little Knish, is that you get these cards called wager cards, which I mentioned earlier. They can only be played at the start of a run. So they have to be the first thing you play. There's 3 of each colour, and you can play as many of them as you can, if you so wish. But with each wager card that you put down, it's basically a double or nothing. So you double the value of the dig if you get it into the positive numbers, but you also double the amount that you'll lose if you don't. So you actually, like, if you start a round and you've put down a couple of wage cards but no numbers, because we played it on Board Game Arena, it gives you live scores. Me and Matt were on, like, minus 174, minus 106. It's like, so you've got, like, a ridiculous amount of damage that you could deal to yourself by doing that. But you can only hold so many cards in your hand, so you either have to play a card onto one of your runs on your turn, or play it in the middle where the other player can grab it. So you're always sort of waiting for the best moment to be like, no, okay, now I'm going to start the run. Now I'm going to put my wages down. I'm banking on red, and then that's when you find out that the other player's holding all the red cards. But it's really good. It's super simple. When we first explained it, I think Matt was like, I think you said something like, by explaining it, I've made it sound more complicated than it actually is. Like, as soon as you start playing it, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But you can play it with a standard deck of cards. Like I said, it's just 5 suits instead of 4, so you could probably just give it a go with a deck of cards. It wouldn't be quite the same because there's not as many cards to choose from, but, you know. I think it's really good. It's really fun. I had a really good time with it.
So who hadn't played it?
I hadn't played
You
it,
hadn't
and
played
I won Lolies.
He did. I think you pulled it
Spoilers.
around in the last round as well, because there were 3 rounds, and it was pretty tight knit by the second round. But then you pulled ahead in the last round. So yeah,
I just drew
all
like
props to you.
4 tens in my hand, so I was like, I hold all the power. Because if you can play like, I don't know, a 10 and 2 other cards above like a 4, then you're basically, or you're almost there anyway, right? So once you've got the 10, you're sort of halfway to making money anyway. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. Good little blast from the past. This running KNIZTCH's Lost Cities. I also played, and Lolies, if you so wish, I think we should probably give the demo for the 2nd edition a try. Summoner Wars by Plaid Hat Games, which is one of my favorite games of all time. It's getting a reprint. It's getting a 2nd edition. It's got brand new art, brand new factions. It's got revamps of old factions. It's a really, really good like card game mixed with a tactics game. And I showed that to Johnny. We had like a sort of you never played where he hadn't played it, and it's really, really good. Every time I play it again, I'm like, oh god, I love this game. I wish I could play it more. So the fact that it's getting a new edition is fantastic. It's also got a digital edition, so it's gonna be even easier to play online.
Yeah.
So we can play that demo if you feel like it, ladies, for a little video.
Yeah,
I think
let's
that'll
do
be
it. I'm in.
Yeah. There is the demo available for people who subscribe to the. They've got these pre-order options, and there's 2 subscription ones, where if you get those, then you get access to the free demo on the online version.
I think you can play the demo because it's a demo, right? So I think you can play the demo, whatever, but you can play the digital edition of the game if you subscribe or something. I think it's like £4 a month.
Yeah, I again, maybe I got this wrong, but I'm fairly sure on the announcement it said if you want access to the demo, you need to get a subscription first. But like, don't count me on that if I'm wrong.
Well, we've got it. It looks like we've got it coming up as a news story, so we can check.
Yeah,
it
you can check. You can check there. No, I'm interested in looking at it. I've not played the 1st edition, and I think the art for this one looks really nice as well. It's by the person who did Crystal Clans, and they've got a few other artists involved too. And yeah, I really like it. I know it's not a deck building game so much because I think you make your deck beforehand, but I do like games that combined cards with like other mechanics. So in this case, the card playing with the area control.
I've just clicked on the demo. Can confirm you can play the demo for free online. It will blast you with very, very powerful music, so be careful for that.
Oh, well, I was wrong.
Right. Is that what you've been playing, Wills?
Yeah, it's just those 2.
All right. Let's move over to Alex Meehan. What have you been playing?
I've been playing Terraforming Mars, more Terraforming Mars. I talked about this at length last week, so I won't go into it too much. But yeah, it's a really good game. The digital app is just great. Like, it works really well. Sometimes it can be a bit glitchy, but it's not like anything you can't solve by just clicking in and out of certain aspects of it. I came 2nd this time, so slowly moving up the ranks.
Out of how
Maybe
many?
Next, out of 4.
Okay.
Out of 2.
Do you think I was going to say 2?
I don't know.
Did you go with a particular corporation this time? Because I think like last time, because I played with you last time when we were both new, and there's like a beginner corporation that's kind of nothing fancy, just gives you a load of cards. Did you try like a different corp this time?
Yeah, I went with the Helios one, which is it allows you to use heat as basically currency. And when you play as one of the other, corporations, apart from the beginner one, you can choose cards right at the beginning. So it gives you like a certain amount of money that you can spend from like right from the off. You're already sort of narrowing down like, okay, this is what I'm going to go towards for this game. This is how I'm going to get my victory points. So like the majority of my victory points I got from I got a really good like combination of animal cards like in my draft, so I got ones that kind of combined really well with one another. which give you victory points. And then I just sort of really focused on getting as much heat conversion as possible, turning that into raising the temperature and improving my terraforming rating. And I also got one of the awards you get at the end. I'm trying to remember whether they're awards or milestones, but which gave you points for having the most heat production. So I kind of really zeroed in on that, and it was very close. I think I was like 4 points away from the winner, something like that. So yeah, I really like that game. I like how, the first few sort of turns force you to shape, like, okay, this is my strategy for the rest of the game. Like, this is kind of what I'm going for, because you just can't, like, spread yourself too thin in that game, because you just won't get anywhere if you do that. You need to, like, focus on your strat. So yeah, I played that. It was really good. And Lolies and I played a game this week from the designer for Cosmic Frog, Jim.
What's
Can't
his
remember
surname?
the second.
Felly, I think.
What was it?
Jim Felly, I
Oh,
think, is the
yes.
designer of Cosmic Frog.
Jim Felly, thanks, Matt. They showed us their new game, which is called the Mirror. Don't put this bit in.
The mirroring of Mary King, wasn't it?
To be fair,
Yeah,
that's
I find it
that's a
very
real
hard
tongue
to say.
twister.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I'll
the
do
game
that
about
again.
tongue twisters, because that is...
No, I struggle to say that because I struggle to say R's. So that's a lot of
Yeah,
R's in
same.
there. The mirroring from Mary King.
Right,
Yeah.
I'll give that another go. And that game was called the Mirroring of Mary King.
It's fine, we'll just leave it in.
It's
all
not.
good.
That's not an easy title to say.
It's not easy to say that
People
title.
deserve to know that this title is difficult.
I've been practicing that in the mirror all morning. That's the only reason I can say it.
The
My
mirroring
broken-
of Mary King.
The mirroring of
It's
Mary
not
King. The
like-
mirroring of Mary King. The mirroring of Mary King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red lorry, yellow lorry.
Oh God. Don't even.
My broken mouth can't say it properly. Yeah, it was a really interesting game. It's a 2-player game specifically, and it's kind of based off, was it like a Scottish legend,
Yeah.
sort of in Edinburgh?
Yeah. He was saying that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a street.
There you have it, folks.
I think there's a street in Edinburgh where people believe that there is a ghost.
Like a haunted
called
little
Mary.
road. Yeah.
Yeah, called Mary King, who kind of haunts that street. So the premise is this woman called Mary King.
Mary King Close. That's the one.
Yes, who is apparently a descendant of this ghostly woman, has wandered down this alleyway and found herself being possessed by this ghostly woman. And so one of you plays as the ghost and one of you plays as the mortal Mary King.
Yeah.
And you both have the same cards, you both have, you don't have different abilities. It's literally just so there's these tiles that kind of make up the game board, and they're double-sided, and each side has part of a portrait of either the mortal Mary King or the ghost Mary King. And so depending on who you're playing, you want to flip those tiles, all those tiles, to match either image. And that's kind of one way you can win the game, but there are kind of multiple ways that you can win, because you play using this deck of cards. And there are cards called control cards, which flip the different tiles on the game board. Flip meaning flipping them over onto the other side. And there's also, I think are they action cards?
Yeah. Action cards.
Please.
Mhm.
And those do all sorts of different things. So they're like ability cards. And so everyone, each player has their deck of cards. And like every turn they can use a certain number of control cards to flip over tiles on the game board. or they can use their action cards. They can also buy cards that are kind of in a marketplace that both players can access and use those as well. And then at the end of that player's turn, depending on how many of the tiles, like an area of tiles is sort of matching your picture, the one you want, your opponent has to discard a certain number of cards. And so that can potentially lead your opponent to either running out of cards, which wins you the game, or once the game kind of reaches 5 days, so 5 rounds, it ends, and then the winner is whoever has the most points from the cards they have remaining in their deck and the number of tiles that they've managed to flip onto their chosen side. So that's like a very broad overview of like what you do in the game. It was very interesting, wasn't it, Lolies? Because we had 2 subsequent matches where like the game ended after like first it was 2 rounds and then 1.
Yeah, the second game, I think I was trying to play it. I was trying something a little bit different from the first game. I just wanted to, play with it and see what would happen. And what I did was bad, but also I think you just happened to have like a good combination of cards and you played them in the right way on your turn. That me and won the second game after her first turn. Just like
yeah, Lolies won the first game after your second turn, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you did a very similar thing to what I did, which is there are certain cards that allow you to force your opponent to flip one of their tiles. Like that you can choose. You can tell them, okay, you have to flip this one. And there's also like cards that allow you to put like locks on the different tiles to stop them from being flipped. So like one of the big like kind of strategies where you found was on your turn, if you can play one of those cards that lock certain tiles, you can play a control card that would otherwise like really not benefit you, that would force you to flip tiles you don't want to flip, because instead of you doing that, you just remove the locks that you've put on those tiles and they stay unflipped. So like by combining the lock card with like a certain control card, you can basically get the board like looking exactly how you want. So that's sort of what both Lolies and I did. We played like that in succession, and then I played the same card that Lolies had played, which was the one that forces your opponent to flip one of their tiles of your choosing, and then that basically just won me the game because I like had all the tiles on the side that I wanted. But then the third game we kind of like went through the entire 5 days, didn't we?
We went down to like the win condition that was like, it was kind of like the final win condition, which was if you play it to the end, counting the cards in your deck and flipped up. And I think it was quite close, wasn't it? It was it was very close, even that game. That could have been either of our.
I think I won by like 2 points, something like that. But it was very close, and like playing that way meant so in the last like few days of the match, you cannot play as many control cards on your turn. So like as you go through each day, it lowers the amount of control cards you can play until like the last day you can only play 1.
It's like I think the whole theme is like that you're kind of fighting for sanity, and that's what the control kind of element of that is. But then the amount of card that you can buy is upped as you go through each day, so it kind of gets you more opportunities to grab that one card that you think, okay, that's going to help change things for me. And it kind of makes things a lot more tense and like desperate. And
Sorry, Toto's just licking himself in the background.
Yeah.
He's also
on top of Rosie.
Yeah, they were curled up next to each other and he's just like, just lean on this, if you don't mind. I had a good time. It was a good game. Like it was
engaging. I think there's quite a bit of luck involved. Like that's what we had for the first 2 games because we just drew the right kind of cards. But there is also a plenty of strategy that you need to do to like make sure that things go your way, both with the tiles and with the card draw. Like they're 2 things that interconnect, but they're also 2 things that you need to keep separate tabs on. At the same time.
I think it's quite a quick game as well. I mean, obviously the first 2 games we finished quite quickly, but even the final game that we played the whole way through, I think that was less than half an hour that playthrough.
Yeah.
And I mean, like considering that we were still kind of like learning some of the abilities and stuff on some of the cards, I reckon you could probably like whip through that game in 20 minutes, no problem.
Did it feel Cosmic Frog, which was your favourite game of last year, Lolies? Like that wasn't super complicated, but this sounds like it's much more simplified than that. Do you think that's fair to say?
Cosmic Frog, I think, wasn't like mega complicated, but I think there was more to it. Like there was more layers, I guess. This is like the Mirroring of Mary King is definitely. I think it's what I was saying to Jim at the end was that it was really easy to pick up. Like I pretty much like understood from the get go what we were doing. It's also the kind of game that I would teach to people who, like friends of mine who don't necessarily play board games. I think it's quite an easy one, as I say, to pick up, and it's just very straightforward and kind of makes sense. It's very like user friendly, I guess, or like player friendly.
It's a cool theme as well, having like a possessor and possessee kind of relationship.
Yes.
Between the 2 players.
I would say I'm kind of in a bit 2 minds about it because on the one hand, there's more cat shenanigans going.
Oh god, here we go.
There's some sort of brawl going on the bed.
This is why I try and shut them out when we're recording the podcast.
Goodness me.
Place your bets, everyone.
I'm going to try and ignore it. It's going to be hard.
I apologise.
I'm on 2 minds because on the one hand, like, I kind of feel like with having a possessor and like a victim, I kind of feel like the game would be really cool if like each player had like different abilities or different goals or something.
Asymmetric.
Yeah, I think the theme lends itself more to an asymmetric kind of game because as soon as Jim said, oh, it's about a ghost and this woman and the ghost is trying to possess the woman and you're trying to fight them off. Like, I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. Like, I can't wait to find out what the ghost does and what the morsel does. And then when he was like, oh, you both have the same decks and access the same powers, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that feels like you're missing out on an opportunity there. But on the other hand, I feel like the game would be potentially a lot more complicated if it was asymmetric. And like the fact that you have access to the same cards, the same decks, the same abilities, like that does make things a lot more straightforward and therefore it's easier to learn and like the games are faster. So on the whole, I think like the game is really good. I just feel like the theme maybe could have gone a bit further if it had been even slightly asymmetric in terms of playing as the different characters. That's my fault.
Well, so this was like a relatively early prototype, right? Do we know when it might be coming out? Or
he was about 90. What was it? He said about 96% of the way done.
Yeah,
it's mostly artwork.
That's very specific.
Yeah, it was quite a specific number.
I think it was just the cards.
It's just the artwork
for the cards.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So mechanically, it's locked in basically.
If I had to give a rough estimate, I'd say I'm about 96.742% done.
No, I think he
that's as specific as I can get.
It sounded like he'd done quite a lot of game testing already, and he seemed pretty happy with the mechanics and how it worked. He was asking us for feedback still as well, but he said he did say he was about 96. I think it was a 96, wasn't it? It was 96%, I think he said.
Yeah, it was something like that. It definitely
high.
seemed to be very close to completion. So obviously changing something as fundamental as like making, the game asymmetric, like that's not going to happen unless suddenly...
That's 4%.
Yeah, suddenly Joe was like, screw it, I'm going to completely change it. But like, like there's obviously another game can be like that, but I don't know. That was my reaction to when he said, "Oh, there's a ghost and there's a mortal." I'm like, "Oh, how is this going to be different? Like, how is the ghost going to kind of like focus on like possession techniques, whereas like the mortal might try and focus on defensive." Maybe the ghost is more aggressive and the mortal more defensive. Maybe I've just been playing too much Root. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I just want every game to be asymmetric now.
Yeah. All right. If that's all you've been playing, Lolies.
Okie dokie.
Other than the mirroring of Mary King.
Yeah.
Oh god,
Oh, everyone's just showing off now.
I'm so bad at saying that.
The mirroring of Mary King. It's easier to say it when you say it like that. Anyway, I played that with Meehan. I played a couple of games, big potato games that I had. A friend of mine really wanted to play some card games, so I brought out a big stack of them, and I was like, pick your poison, and they happened to go for a couple of big potato games I have. One of them is Dino Dump, which is like a kid's skin version of Shithead, which is a game that most people I think know. It's the name of the game! It's the
You
name
could
of
call
the
it Poop
game.
Head.
No, I can't.
I can't believe that.
It's the name of the
Although
game.
Lolies does think if you put an E at the end, then
Shithead,
it's not a swear
yeah.
word.
It's not. It's not.
Don't say it. I specifically
It's not. Or do you mean shitheady? Anyway, we played that. As I said, it's just a reskin kind of kids version of a game that I grew up with. Playing with my cousins and stuff. We played a game which they brought out last year, in 2020, called P is for Pizza, which is a word game where you flip over cards, and the cards will have like 3 different sections, and there's like letters, and that correspond to different words that are on the cards, and then you have to say something. It's kind of a little bit like Anomia, I think. No, Anomia doesn't have letters, does it? But it's kind of like that,
Anomia
both
is,
extra
yeah.
kind of letters involved. So that was quite fun.
Was there any pizza?
Well, it's in the shape
box?
of a pizza, and then you're trying to create like a giant pizza slice with your winning tiles.
It's KNIZTCH-esque in that one.
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of Walker Harding, because he made New York Slice, right?
No, that's not.
Isn't that Walker Harding?
No, I think that's
Who
someone
am
else.
I thinking of? Is it Ryan Kinnick?
But I can't remember because there's piece of cake or piece o cake, and then
it became
New York
piece of
Slice.
cake, but I swear it started off as New York Slice.
I don't think it's
Ignore-
Walker Harding though.
Genuinely quite a funny thing. If you don't know who designed something,
Is it
you,
Ted
like
Dawson?
the best bet is to say
Ryan
Ryan
Kinnick, yeah.
It's
It's Jeffrey D. Allers did New York Slice.
No, you know why I'm getting confused, because
And
I
piece of cake.
think Walker Harding talked about piece of cake, and I got confused with that.
Did
Ignore
Sushi
me.
Go? Another,
Yeah, he did
just
Sushi Go.
specialise in edible games.
I wish I could have eaten it. Anyway,
Anywho, also played Monopoly Duel. Wait,
Oh, she's been excited.
yeah,
About this.
which is like a card game version of Monopoly. And I was a bit like, I don't know, that seems weird, but it was quite good. It was quick. It was very simple. You just had to get 3 sets of properties, and different color properties needed like different size sets. It was pretty simple. I won the game, so that was good.
I'd say Monopoly Deal is the best
Deals.
Monopoly.
Was
Yeah.
it Deal or Duel?
I think it's Deal. At least the card game I've played is Deal, but that was about 15 years ago. So
Deal makes more sense. When I said Duel, I was a bit like, wait, hold on, is it a 2-player version? No,
I would
think
absolutely
Deal.
play Monopoly Duel, to be fair.
Would you?
But
yeah.
Deal it's surprisingly good, right? It's like, I think because it's much shorter and it is mechanically nothing like Monopoly. It just happens to be dressed in the Monopoly clothes.
That's the secret sauce.
But it's kind of like a set collection game, and it is like you say, it's super luck driven, but it's kind of, it's really take thatty is what I remember of it. Maybe we were just really mean.
It is because it's like you've got cards where you can like take people's sets away and
That's it,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
They've kept it mean-spirited.
Yeah, of
that's
course.
Yeah.
That's the real heart of Monopoly, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can
still grind people down.
earn like rent and stuff as well on your properties, but you play a card to earn rent rather than them having to land on your properties, obviously, because there's no board, it's just cards. Yeah, it was pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised. Would play again. It was quite quick as well. Yeah, it was like, I think maybe 15 minutes or so, something like that. Yeah, so I played that, and then I played a game that I didn't really make it up. So there was a show in the 50s called What's My Line that I'm obsessed with. It ran from the 50s till the 70s, and it's on YouTube. Like, you can watch it on YouTube, and it's all like black and white. It's really, I just love the show because it's like proper old American TV. Like, everyone's just like dressed up in glamour, and they're just really polite to each other and call each other like Mr. and Mrs. blah blah blah. And it's a show where they get like a guest on, and that guest has obviously a job, and then the panel of judges, who are celebrity judges, each get like turns to ask the person a question to try and narrow down what their job is, what's their line, and they can ask as many questions until they get a no, and then it moves on to the next panel person, and it keeps going like that. And they can do it until they've gotten 10 no's, or until like there's a guy who kind of a host. His name is Mr. Daly, and he is there to like chat to the guest, like in terms of if something's a bit unclear, they can kind of like confer, and also sometimes he's like, you guys are miles away, we're like, just give up, and then he he flips the board. But pretty much,
No, you're never gonna get this one.
But it's really interesting.
Sorry, I didn't realize we had idiots on the show today.
It's a really great show. It's like 25 minutes or something. And like there's like ads as well that sometimes play, and like ridiculous.
Yeah, that's great.
It's sponsored by Kellogg's and stuff like that. And I really enjoy it. So myself and my friend who've been watching it, just started playing it ourselves. Like, obviously we like, instead of using our real jobs, we just like pick a job and then we play it like that, and it's been really good fun. Just like, yeah, really simple. You can play it when you're on the boat.
So
it reminds me of oh, sorry, Matt, you carry on.
No, you go first.
Well, I was just going to say, there's this, one of my favourite Twitter accounts is called Accidental Partridge, which is when they post clips from like TV where someone, it looks like they should be pretending to be Alan Partridge, but that's just who they actually are. But there's this clip of this like old game show where it was like they go through someone's house, and the contestants have to try and figure out who the person is based on the tour of the house. Right. So it's kind of a similar thing, but they've got this clip where like they just finish up. Right? Sorry? It's like
through the keyhole. It's like a
through
classic.
The keyhole, is that what it's called?
Am I just am I
Matt,
like
it's
the
from, like,
old person of the group?
It's a clip
now?
from like the 80s or 90s. So like,
the far from past of the 90s.
Yeah,
I was like very young and didn't exist at that point, I'm afraid. But anyway, so like they finish up the thing and they're like, well, here's his house. It is. And then it's like bum bum ba bum bum ba to this married couple. It just comes up with a lower third that says former Iraqi hostages. And it's like, whoa, what?
Jesus.
It's the most. I will send it to you all after this. It is so good. Like, it's just one of those things where you're like, this is already ridiculous, but what a punchline.
So Lolies, with what's my line?
What's my line? Yeah.
Do they get to look at, so they're trying to guess their job, right?
Yeah.
Is it just questions they ask, or do they get to look at their hands and things like that?
Yeah, they do that at the beginning. In some episodes, I don't know if it's the earlier seasons or the later seasons, but they do that at some point where they shake their hand and they can like look at their hands and stuff at the beginning. I don't think they've done that always. Yeah, because they can see, like, you know, if they've got like rougher hands or anything like that. And they also, when they come in, the way that they come in is there's a blackboard and they like sign their name as well. It's really sweet. And also there's a mystery guest. So at one point, for one round, the panelists like put a blindfold on, and the mystery guest who's a celebrity. So there's like Frank Sinatra, Muhammad Ali, just like all these really like classic celebrities from the 50s and 60s. I can't think of anyone else, but there's really great ones. I can see their faces, but I can't think of their names right now. what's that actor? Wheels. I feel like you can do a really good impression of him. He's like the English guy, and he's like in Batman. He's like the
Michael Keaton.
Michael Caine. Yeah, he's like Michael Caine from like the 50s or something.
Michael
I don't know. Like,
It's so
I mean,
good.
to be fair, you got
he was
Michael.
in Batman.
What? Oh,
He's not
No, we're
British.
laughing at me. No.
what did I do?
He's-
What? We did do a Michael Caine impression recently. I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
why.
don't remember why either. I was like, I feel like I've heard Wheels do an impression of Michael Caine, but I don't know why.
You know what, this has gone so off the rails. Like, there's
See-
no way it's ever going to go back.
That's
Anyway.
alright, I can say it. So the reason I asked is when my wife and I were on our honeymoon, year before last, we went to Italy, which was very nice. We were in Rome, and in the evenings we became really fascinated by an Italian TV program. Neither of us can speak Italian, so we're kind of guessing at what was going on. But it was that they were guessing someone's job, and they would look at their hands and like look very close up at them and
Oh, no,
kind of
they didn't do
examine.
that, no.
Like they were able to go around, and then their bonus round wasn't celebrities, but it was someone who, it's like they bring 5 people out and one of them is related to the person, so you have to try and work out who's related to them.
That's weird.
But we could only understand about 5% of what was going on because it was all in Italian and neither of us speak Italian.
Well, it's like,
But it
it's
was
like that bit
fascinating.
from Would I Lie to You, isn't it? Where they
Yeah.
yeah, and each one's got a different story of how they're related to
Yeah.
it or something. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it sounds like the elements of that show still exist in modern TV. It's
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
the exact show.
It's
The
great.
host
It
was
ran to like the 70s, till the mid 70s, I think. Although I was watching some of the 70s, and it's got different like hosts and panelists, and it's not as good as the other ones. So.
The Italian host reminded me of like an Italian Jasper Carrot. Which then reminds me of Golden Balls, which was a hilarious
Oh,
British
whoa,
game show that
Golden
somebody just broke at
Balls.
some point because they
Golden Balls.
like meta gamed
there's-
it,
Yeah.
and we're just like, look, I'm taking this regardless. If you also, I'll split it with you. And after that, I think they had to basically pull it because the whole prisoner's dilemma was broken.
Oh.
But all right, if that's all you've been playing, Lolies, which sounds like quite a lot, we should also probably just make note that Lolies used to work for Big Potato.
Yes.
For some context. There we go. I have played, which is useful because it transitions us straight into news. I have played this year's Asdor winner, MicroMacro Crime City, which I was not playing because it won the Asdor. I just happened to be playing it, and then also it won the Asdor.
I want it, Matt. I
So-
really want
it looks so good.
It's really good. The Asdor, for those who aren't aware, is kind of like France's board game of the year. It's to France what the Spiel des Jahres is to Germany. It translates to Golden Ace, I think, and it's been going a couple of decades or maybe more decades. But like the Spiel des Jahres, it tends to be like a family weight game, so something pretty accessible, easy to pick up, which MicroMacro fits into very nicely because MicroMacro is essentially Where's Wally, but with horrible crimes.
Crimes.
So it is a game that features a large poster map. It is a very large map. It was too big for our coffee table, so we ended up just putting it on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And it is a black and white cartoon illustration of a city, the crime city, if you will.
What?
Full of these like
Just
delightful.
a quick question.
Hello.
Like, would you willingly move to a place called Crime City? Like, this is a
Maybe it's ironic.
It's like Hell's Kitchen, you know?
It's like Midsummer Murders. Oh wait, no, that's not the
not
name of the
actually-
place.
No.
Hello there, welcome to Midsummer Murders Village.
Never mind.
But it's a strange thing because it presents itself in a very friendly, cartoony way. All the inhabitants are kind of like, they're kind of half animals, half kind of like vegetables. They're humanoid, so they're walking around and they're, little business suits and driving cars and things like that, but they've got like carrot noses or kind of like elephant ears or like trunks and things like that. It's a really nice style. It's black and white.
Animals and plants finally found a way.
It's probably a
to-
really bad description of
re-
it.
reproduce.
Some of
They
them
kind of
do look like humans,
like
but
a Cartoon Network show character.
that's a really
Yeah.
good way of putting it. Yeah. So what you do is it's kind of like a blend of Where's Wally or Waldo if you're in the US and something
Waldo.
like Waldo. I mean, Waldo makes more sense because Oddlaw is Waldo backwards, but it was originally Wally, so I don't know where Oddlaw came from, or their Waldo is Oddlaw backwards. Anyway, how you play MicroMacro is you have a case, as in like a case file, and it consists of about 5 to 10 cards, and each card is kind of like a mini puzzle to solve. So it'll be like, okay, and they're all like kind of horrible crimes. It's like someone's been shot dead in this square. Who did it? Who done it? So you start by searching the map to find the square, and you'll find like a tiny little cartoon corpse. And because the map is full of these, almost every like little bit of space you go over, there's someone dead there, or there's someone crashed through a window, or there's someone being poisoned, or it's weirdly macabre. But
Sounds like a Hieronymus Botch painting.
Yeah, it's packed with detail, and there's loads of little Easter eggs. But you find this, and then you flip the card over and compare the coordinates before you read the bit of text that then leads you on to the next bit of the case. So you make sure that you've found the right thing. And then it might be, okay, who shot them or who followed them there? So the way the map works is the same person can appear multiple times. It's almost like multiple different points in time plotted on a single picture. So you can follow them from being dead in a square to trotting across the map. So it's like, okay, they came out of this subway over here before they trotted across and got shot. Follow the subway back to the other subway entrance, follow that back to the house, and so on. And you'll get these cards, and you'll just turn over each card as you solve each kind of part of the mystery. And they get quite complex. Without spoiling anything, the first kind of couple of cases is they're kind of quite localized. So you're only probably looking at like 2 or 3 squares of the map. But then, like I say, later ones will have you kind of checking different subway stations and tracking them across, the expanse of this very large poster. And it's really good fun. I think the way it looks fantastic for a start. Like the art style is very strong. I think it's good that it's not in color because it actually makes it easier to kind of pick out things. I think if it was in color, it would be very overwhelming. It does come with a tiny little magnifying glass, which is quite cute. And the cases are fun. They're quite difficult. We've only got up to kind of 3-star out of 5-star difficulty so far. But they were probably taking us maybe closer to half an hour to solve. So I'm interested to see how difficult they get later on. I think there are 16 in the box. That's my one kind of question mark about the game is there's probably not loads of replay value because once you've solved them, you've solved them. But I think 16 cases in there, they've put out some for free on their website as kind of like mini puzzles. And on the back, it kind of suggests, there are some that you can just find if you look across the map. There are some we haven't mentioned in the cases. So it feels like it's packed full of stuff. There are loads of little Easter eggs, and half the joy of it is scanning across and you'll just spot little things here or there. And it's like, we found the point where that hat was taken, or we found the point where they changed from riding in a car to riding on a train, or anything like that. But I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think it is deserving of winning the Asdor to bring things full circle back to news. Because there'll be some people who are like, it's not really a game, it's more of an activity. But I think it's as much of a game as something like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is. Like, it's about the storytelling, it's a puzzle. It's, you're not aiming to get points or anything like that, but, it's like an escape room in a box. It fits in with all of those. It's kind of perfect at the moment, I think, for folks who are at home, because you can play it by yourself you can play it like a puzzle that you just do by yourself, or you can play it in a group. I've been playing with my wife, so there's just 2 of us kind of poring over this map. But I've never seen, like I said, I can compare it to Where's Wally and I can compare it to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but I've never seen a game do this kind of thing before, and I think it's a really smart and well executed idea.
Yeah, I really love the look of it. There is actually another thing that we can tease as well. I think me and Lolies are planning on playing the online demo for that as well, because that is another thing that you can do. Because unfortunately, it's sold out from what we can find. Because I'm desperately after a copy because I love the look of it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm obsessed with Sherlock after playing through that as well.
Stunning.
So yes, more of that, please.
Yeah, the online demo is really good. It's a separate case to the game. It's kind of its own map. And there's also a puzzle, like a mini puzzle on the box art. If you go and find the box art online, you can just do the one on there as well, which is, they're clearly having fun with it.
Yeah, well, I think the idea is that, like, if you're in a game shop and you pick up the box, it's like, hey, play this right now. Like, you don't need to sort of look up online. Like, you can just give it a go straight away, which is a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks amazing.
So yeah, that like I say, that picked up the main kind of Asdor award for Game of the Year. And then in the expert category, so similar to the KNIZTCH Spiel des Jahres, it was The Crew.
Again with The Crew.
Yeah, so the Crew which won the KNIZTCH Spiel des Jahres, also won the expert award at the Asdor. We've mentioned The Crew plenty of times on this podcast before. We love it. It's
great. Not an expert game.
I think here it makes more sense because compared to something like MicroMacro, you can see that kind of like there is like a step up. It's not a huge void of kind of difficulty or complexity, but there is a shift there. But yeah, it's I do think
give any awards to pictures. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that was the big hoo-ha last time.
Yeah, I think describing The Crew as expert is a strange one. I don't think awards like the Asdor or the KNIZTCH Spiel des Jahres are mainstream enough where it would put people off, but I do think that there is the risk of people looking at it going, oh, we got the expert award, it's maybe a bit too much for me. And I think for most people The Crew it's as difficult as a playing card game. It's not. But yeah, it's nice to see it kind of recognised further because it's a great game.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And then there was also the Kids Award, Children's Game of the Year, which went to Dragomino.
I saw the cover for that and I was like, oh, dragon, not drag queen. That's very
No, it's
So-
the spin-off from King and Queen Domino, right?
Yeah, which is odd in a way because King Domino was already quite kid-friendly.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it's not super
Dragomino
complex,
is
but-
like Baby Bab.
Yes,
game.
baby dragons. Yeah, so there we go. Let's whiz through to the next news story because we're running behind. Who would have thunk
I'm
it?
shocked.
Chase covered this one. Magic the Gathering had some announcements last week, this week. What is time anymore? But Magic the Gathering is crossing over with Lord of the Rings and Warhammer
Yay.
40,000.
Yay!
So the Wall Street Journal originally broke this before it was officially announced. Was it the Wall Street Journal? Maybe I'm misremembering. Hold on. No, it was the Wall Street Journal. It was the Wall Street Journal.
The Wall Street Journal. Wow.
It was part of a wider thing talking about there's restructuring going on at Hasbro because basically D&D is very popular at the moment.
Yeah.
So they're restructuring the company to make D&D and Wizards like a very distinct thing and try and replicate that across the rest of the company. But as part of this, Magic the Gathering is getting a new series or kind of franchise called Universes Beyond. With the first
generic.
the first two including Warhammer 40,000 Commander decks, so for the Commander format, and a Lord of the Rings expansion. So this follows, was it last year? I think it was last year. There was the Walking Dead cards that came out through the Secret Lair kind of drop,
Yeah.
which were, to put it plainly, not super well received. So this is an
No.
interesting one. But this is kind of Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering kind of, getting in on the pop culture crossover stuff, which seems to be everywhere at the moment. So it's basically said that these will be kind of their own sets in a lot of ways. So the Walking Dead Secret Lair stuff had like a specific stamp on it that marked it out as being part of Universes Beyond. So it's being kind of like retroactively put into this series. So
The thing, I'm not a Magic player, so I don't know a huge amount about the game beyond like the very basics. But to me, the thing is with the Walking Dead Secret Lair, that was very much. I think there weren't that many cards in that set. It was just like a few, just a few cards really, and they were sort of built to work alongside other Magic decks. And yeah, they weren't well received, mostly because people why. Rightfully so, because number one, why The Walking Dead, it's not been like very, very big in a long time, as far as I know. But also, like, the Magic the Gathering has a huge universe of its own that has a lot of world building and lore in it. And it's a big reason why people play Magic. So, like, why are you making these sets based on, like, other universes? Because, like, Magic has loads of stuff that could be, like, Lord of the Rings, basically, or Warhammer. So it just seems to me that you might as well just make a card game based on Lord of the Rings. Oh, wait, Fantasy already did that. I
imagine the answer is money.
Money. But... I mean, the answer is money, but, like, I don't know. I imagine there are some players who will buy almost any Magic the Gathering set, which is fine. But, yeah, I imagine... Has there been a backlash to this, Matt, yet? Or not?
I mean, it's as with anything. Some people are kind of like, about it. Some people are not very happy about it. I think part of the problem with the Walking Dead stuff, and I might be misremembering, so take this with a pinch of salt, is that those cards were only available in Secret Lair, and they were new cards. So they weren't just kind of like old cards with Walking Dead artwork. So the only way to get them was via that Secret Lair, which kind of messes with the meta, because if there are some people who can get cards that other people can't, and they happen to be strong in certain decks.
From the picture, it looks like they're just like generic tokens, to be fair.
Yeah, I can't remember if they maybe changed them but I can't remember. Like I say, pinch of salt.
Was The Walking Dead the first Secret Lair then? Because I swear the ones before that.
Oh yeah, there've been loads of Secret Lairs before, but they tend to be just reskinned existing cards
they're
with
like
new artwork
fancy art versions. They did like a heavy metal.
Yeah, or
tattoos. I thought they were new. I thought they were entirely new cards, but no, they're just reskinned ones. But these Walking Dead ones were new.
I believe so. Like I say, take it with a pinch of salt and look it up, because I'm not. I can't fully remember. For what it's worth, they've said that the upcoming Universes Beyond stuff will be cards in both will be completely new and playable in all formats but standard. So the same rules as applied to the Walking Dead. And they might feature old cards reskinned in future Universes Beyond releases, similar to some of the Secret Lair stuff. So it seems like this will include new cards as well as old cards that just get slightly different art. It's also worth mentioning that what's it called? Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which is the upcoming D&D set, will not be counted as part of this. So they're very much kind of just breaking off, crossovers that basically aren't owned by Wizards of the Coast, which in the case of D&D makes sense because there have been source books that kind of tie those two.
Ravnica, right?
So they're a little bit more kind of
connected.
Yeah, by lore and so on. Rather than these kind of things that are just like, I don't know, put a hobbit on a card. That'll do.
Hey you, put a hobbit on a card.
Yes, my lord. My favourite takeaway from this is the generic press release language that comes attached. Like, we hope that Universes Beyond brings the game that we love to more people who might not have otherwise found us. We hope fans of these worlds and characters will find our game through Universes Beyond, and we hope they'll stay a while and become part of our amazing community. It's just like, okay, yes.
It feels strange in a way, because when Magic first came out, there were so many collectible card games that were just essentially the gameplay of Magic reskinned. I mean, it's kind of where the likes of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Came from, right? It's like they are mechanically different, but there were plenty of games that were just, here's Magic the Gathering, but with popular thing of the time slapped on top.
Yeah.
So it feels weird that it's now Magic doing it.
It's come full circle.
In the case of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's what wild hairstyles can we whack on these cards, baby?
We just be thankful that Magic doesn't involve 20 different types of summoning, synchro summoning.
It hasn't got Karibo in it though.
True.
Which I consider a disadvantage. Anyway,
let's move on. Let's whiz on through. Alex Meehan, tell us the latest of the D&D movies.
It's time. It's the podcast within a podcast. D&D
Yeah.
Film Watch.
It's D&D Film Watch, everyone. I'm in the chopper. I'm hovering over the house of Hugh Grant.
Police have been called.
The police have been called multiple times. The newest news for the D&D film is Hugh Grant, who you may know from Four Weddings and a Funeral, Paddington 2, About a Boy, I think he was in, right? I keep getting him mixed up with Colin Firth.
Very easy to do.
Yeah. I'm a charming British person.
Ooh.
Cast me in your films as a charming British person.
Has been cast in the role of the villain for the upcoming D&D film. Yeah.
God.
So that's kind of a little bit exciting considering he was so good in Paddington 2, which is his best role. And joining Grant will be Sophia Lillis. I hope that's how you say your name. Who you might know from the It reboot. That was a few years ago. I remember her being really good in it. We don't know what role Lillis has in the film. But yeah, Grant is joining Pine, Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, and the recently announced Reggie Jean Page from Bridgerton.
It seems to be, it's quite the cast they're lining up. Maybe like 10 years ago, Hugh Grant appearing in a D&D movie would have been quite questionable, but I think after Paddington, it's kind of like, okay, like he seems to
be game.
Yeah, to be honest, I think trying to bring the same energy as Hugh Grant had in Paddington 2 to a D&D film might be exactly what that film needs. If it's coming at things with that very kind of knowing wink and it pulls it off, I think that might work in its favour. But
yeah, if they try and play it like very straight-laced, I think it's not going to work out well. Because kudos to Hugh Grant. He's okay. I think, he's not really my target market, I guess. But I think he's really good when he's allowed to sort of let loose. And if they make him play a very bit of an overtop villain, who maybe got some depth to him. You never know. I think it would be pretty good. I'm still a bit and ahhing about Chris Pine. He's okay. He seemed like a good lad, but
yeah, I mean, Chris Pine wasn't official. I don't think any of these have been officially announced, right? They've all kind of come out of various movie sites doing the reporting, Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and so on. But I think Chris Pine being the first name attached to this project as an actor was a little bit deflating. But as time goes on and we're seeing folks like Rodriguez and Smith and, Grant, Lillis, it seems to be coming together in kind of a slightly more promising way. Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see, but...
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know there's one glaring omission, but we will wait. I'm sure the story's coming any day now.
Lolies just said me. We'd love to see you in it, Lolies.
We're excited to announce that Alex Lolies will be appearing in the upcoming D&D
playing the role of Danny DeVito. It's Alex Lolies.
I'm too tall.
We can sort that out.
We'll CGI it. Don't worry about it.
The wonders of technology. Either that or we just stick to boots. We just make you go on your knees and then put boots like under your knees. And then you can just walk around like that.
Or we just make the rest of the cast taller.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone else is on stilts.
Exactly, yeah. We'll figure it all out in the writers' room once me and Meehan have been hired.
Yeah, we've been hired. We're still waiting.
Which we're still waiting for that as well, by the way, if you're listening.
Still waiting for that email. I know it's going to come.
Come on.
If you're listening, Hollywood, Mr. Hollywood, give us a ring.
No, that's my father was Mr. Hollywood. Please.
Please, call me Holly.
All right, Wisdom Through. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, so we'll keep this one short. Summoner Wars, 2nd edition.
done. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I think, Wills, you kind of mentioned this.
Summoner Wars is a really good game. Plaid Hat have now gone independent. They were previously owned by Asmodee. Now they are their own company. They're releasing a second edition of the game with brand new art. Art looks really good. It's by the person who did the Crystal Clans, as Mia mentioned. And it's a fantastic game. It's getting a revamp. It's available online as an online digital subscription as well, which is kind of cool. So considering we can't play it physically right now, you can play it online like a video game. So that's good. And yeah, look forward to that.
Great.
Free demo available online. Visit dicebreaker.com for a link.
Wheels, they're face cuddling behind you. They're face cuddling.
They are. They are. They've
That's-
put their differences aside.
The differences as two cats.
A ginger and a white cat and a brown cat. So, you know.
Yeah, that's what we call that. We call that brown.
All right.
Brown. That's what Toto is. He's a brown cat.
Bless him. All right. Next story. Very quick one. Another Kickstarter. Did we say that Summoner Wars is releasing in spring? We should say that. Summoner Wars, I think, is out. Mian, do you remember the date? May. That's the one. Thank you.
It's in May.
And then the
Summer.
digital version's in the summer, right? August time.
August.
So thank you. Whizzing on through this news. Not rushed at all. We always plan it like this. Cole Worley, designer of Root and Pax Pamir and other very good games. He's back. With
He's back.
with
He's
another
escaped
game.
from prison.
Apparently not satisfied with having the Kickstarter for Root's Marauders expansion already up at the moment. John Company 2nd Edition is hitting a Kickstarter March 30th. For those who don't know, because John Company is one of Worley's kind of slightly older games, it is about British... it was about the British East India Company, sorry. It's kind of the rise and fall of it. It takes a very post-colonial approach to it. It is a fascinating game that I've not played, that I am itching to play. And it is coming out through a Whirligig, which is the publisher that Cole set up with his brother, Drew. And their previous release being Pax Pamir 2nd Edition. So they continue to put out 2nd Edition of Cole Worley's kind of older historical games. I don't believe they've said... So Pax Pamir, I think, had very limited availability after the Kickstarter. So it's not like Root, where you'll just be able to walk into kind of most game shops and find it. So I expect this will be similar. I believe they've said it will be slightly more expensive than Pax Pamir 2nd Edition, which was a very lavish production. It is a Pax Pamir 2nd Edition is one of the kind of prettiest games I've ever played, but it was also not particularly cheap for that reason, and the fact that they're a small company.
Looking at the photos, I'm not sure if I would say the same about John Company. Just looks like board, card, cubes kind of game, you know.
It's hard to tell because kind of the pictures they put out don't show loads, but Pax Pamir certainly had like a cloth, is it like cloth or burlap kind of like map, and like slightly chalky in a good way blocks to represent
Chalky
things.
but good.
Well, in a way that they were very pleasing to just handle. And
it's
John,
a lovely production.
John Company is kind of more, I suppose, conventional in it's got a load of cubes and discs and dice. But like I say, it's a fascinating game. I've not played it myself. I've read a lot about it. I only hear good things. I think Cole has said that this edition, similar to Pax Pamir, will be... it's quite a substantial kind of revamp of it. And it's designed to be a lot more accessible for folks who are kind of coming to it fresh. And also will improve on elements that Worley describes as, quote, half-cooked. Which for a game that generally I think is like quite critically acclaimed is an interesting, an interesting way of putting it. But it's kind of, he's being quite upfront, I guess.
He's a perfectionist,
about,
I think. Yeah, and it's... If it's a second edition, it gives you a chance to go back and change things that you would have done differently, right?
Yeah, so here's a quote from Cole Worley to kind of give you an idea of what the game's about. Like Pamir, John Company is built on a bedrock of post-colonial thought and draws from many scholars. If you've ever wanted to see the work of Edward Said in board game form, boy, do I have a game for you. So
I've definitely thought that more than once.
He
So
is.
thanks.
Not
Thanks,
surprised.
Cole Early.
I'm not surprised.
Yes, he's a very clever designer.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that people are making games on this sort of subject.
Yeah, every time I read a quote from him, I'm like, wow, I am not smart enough, but I like your games all the same. I like the one with the furry cats in, thanks.
Please, Mr. Whirly, I really like your game with the furry cats.
Is this the game where the first edition came with that horrible open letter?
I don't recall, to be honest. I don't think so. So that you're referring to, gosh, what's his name? I've tried to wipe it from my memory because he's not a pleasant person. But I think that was for the other designer's game. I don't believe he contributed to John Company. I might be wrong, don't quote me on it, but I believe that was the other designer's game that relates to. But yes, that'll be up on March 30th. All right, let's whiz on through to emails.
Email.
Oh.
If you've got an email for the Dicebreaker podcast, you can reach us at podcast@dicebreaker.com. You can find us on Twitter @joindicebreaker. You can find us on the web, dicebreaker.com, or on YouTube, youtube.com/dicebreaker. Let's open with this one from Matt with 1T. Wheels, would you like to read this one, please?
Yeah, of course. Matt with 1T says, "Hi, I recently purchased Chinatown. And when I told this to a friend of mine with Chinese heritage, he said he would rather we don't play it on game night because the box art and components make him uncomfortable. I feel guilty for not having noticed the Orientalism in this game as it seems so glaringly obvious now. Is it in bad faith to keep a game I know is culturally insensitive, or should I get rid of it in the name of inclusivity? I feel that if I was to do the latter, I should also be getting rid of other games with problematic elements such as The Quest for El Dorado, Great Western Trail, and Secret Hitler. It's quite confusing to work out where to draw the line on what is and isn't acceptable enough to own. Best, from Matt." I think we've cut that email down a tiny bit just to save us some space.
Yeah, I did try. It was a very good and well worded email, so thank you, Matt.
Yeah. This is a difficult subject.
Yeah. We're not experts.
I was going to say, let's
Yeah.
address the elephant in the room in that we are for white people, so
Yeah.
we are not the best people to discuss elements of cultural sensitivity, but we can obviously chime in with what little we can chime in with, but obviously go to, much like your friend in this case, the people that know best, that are affected directly by that stuff. They are always the best people to listen to on this first. But I think in this case, if it's making a friend uncomfortable, that's kind of an obvious thing for let's not play that anymore. Let's get rid of it. I think there are some that are very clear cut and are, you look at them and they are very clearly insensitive and regardless of your background or personal connection to the elements depicted. I think with other games, and I might be speaking out to here, but I think Secret Hitler is obviously one where the theming of it around Hitler and the Nazi Party's rise to power is one that can make people uncomfortable. And so there are games where that line may not be as clear cut. It may be a case of personal comfortability, but obviously...
I mean, the difficulty with Secret Hitler, and I'm sure Lolies is also aware of this because you've played that game quite a bit, haven't you? I'm pretty sure that game was created as a tool to sort of inform people about, how democracy can be used as like a tool to, install a fascist, government. Again, I'm pretty sure that's taken from the website that Secret Hitler you can get that from. Again, I'm not an expert on German history or cultural sensitivity or anything, but I think it would potentially depend on who you play with particular games like that, like with your friend. But maybe look into like the origins of these games, the people who made them, and like what people were saying about them, particularly those people who, would find them culturally insensitive. It's a bit difficult with tabletop games because for example, there are so many games made about imperialist topics, like trading. There's a lot of games set where you are going to South America and trading, like taking resources from there and trading them, and you're clearly like, white Europeans or white North Americans, or things like that. So yeah, tabletop gaming has a long history of having board games based on subjects that are culturally, not great.
Not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or having creators making a game about a culture that they
Have
like,
nothing to do with.
don't come from, haven't gone to, sensitivity writers or like people who've been more aware of that culture. And hopefully it feels like maybe things are changing a bit now. But sorry, I feel like I interrupted you, Matt. But
No, I think like you've kind of captured the point there. It's like, because I certainly know there are some people who take issue with even games, like war games depicting World War II or World War One, real life conflicts in which millions of people suffered across the world, and they are, that suffering and experience is reduced to a load of tokens on a board or some dice rolls. But there are also war games out there that do aim for simulation rather than, I suppose, like in very loose, broad terms, entertainment. There are serious war games that look to examine the reasons why those wars happened, why things within those wars happened, the experiences of people within those wars. A game like The Grizzled, for instance, is a game about war, but it looks at kind of the personal experiences of those involved, and I believe was created by those with kind of, if not first-hand, but relatively intimate knowledge and connection to the Siege of Sarajevo. So there are games that can be about those things, and it comes down to the way those things are handled. But I think in the case of something like this, where it's your friend telling you that they are uncomfortable with something, at the end of the day,
sign,
that's the reason to get rid of
yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
There's no kind of back and forth about that.
I think it's worth saying, like, if you're listening to this and sort of realizing, maybe you're looking at your board game shelf, you're like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, kind of thing. If someone comes to you about that, and your immediate reaction is, oh, of course, like, I don't think anyone's gonna say that you're doing anything wrong in that regards. Like, the fact that you own the game isn't necessarily an indictment against you. It's more, it's how you react to someone being uncomfortable about it, and someone saying, hey, I'm not sure I want to play this game. If at which point you're open to that and say, okay, fine, maybe I'll even get rid of it. Like, you're clearly taking steps in the right direction. You're clearly making sure that people are feeling comfortable, and that's the most important thing to take away from that, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. That's all.
Unfortunately, there are too many people out there in the tabletop community who have the reaction to these sort of discussions as like, it's just a game, I don't know what your problem is, why can't you just play it and ignore the theme? And it's kind of like, well, I kind of feel like if you can say that, maybe you're in a position where it's very easy for you to ignore the theme, because it maybe doesn't apply to your life and you. And also it is important to consider themes and, like certain aspects of games that either haven't aged well or are being made today, and you're kind of sat there going, maybe that's in poor taste. But hopefully by having those discussions, it encourages publishers and designers to kind of reconsider maybe some of their creative decisions. And
I mean, reach out to those publishers as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's often the case if you have a copy of, I think you said El Dorado there, Quest for El Dorado, and you're like, I'm not sure that the art in this is really okay anymore. Maybe pop them an email and make those concerns heard, because it's the kind of thing that as we've talked about 2 second editions that are coming out, like, these games don't necessarily get published and then they just exist like that all the time. A lot of the time these games are updated, they have new artists come in, new perspectives, a lot of some of the stuff that was a little bit iffy about previous versions, because that can then be looked at and readdressed and fixed and things. So
that's happening with Great Western Trail, right? The new edition is directly it's altering those elements of the Native American kind of aspects of the original edition.
Yeah, right? I believe that's right.
So they're obviously paying attention, like publishers and designers are paying attention to people having these discussions. Like, that's why they're making those changes. Yeah.
It's worth saying as well, there are so many games out there now that share mechanics where if there is a game that has problematic thematic elements, because generally mechanically things, they're quite dry. Like many mechanics can be applied to almost any theme. It's likely there'll be another game that doesn't have those elements. If it's not the exact same game, there will be probably elements of the thing that you do enjoy in it, where you can then find another game that everyone feels comfortable playing.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you've heard this and it's not something you really thought about, take it as an excuse to, you know, revisit some of the games that you've been playing a long time and think about, you know, would you feel comfortable playing this with someone who shares heritage with the people that are being depicted on the box, kind of thing. Yeah. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. And to reiterate, listen, you know, we are speaking for that, but obviously listen to those who know best first. You know, seek out their voices, like listen to them and use that to kind of further your own learning and action. Lolies, would you like to read this one from Vivek, please?
Vivek Santayana asks, who are some of your favorite community creators making third-party content for your favorite games? Stuff like maps, music, art, or adventures. I got nothing.
Take it away.
I got nothing. I don't know.
I will say I'm going to get the actual name because I always just see the username on Twitter. And it's not on Twitter. That's fine. Mustang. The Dislocating GM, combat wheelchair designer.
Sarah
cool.
Thompson.
Sarah Thompson. Thank you. Has been doing incredible work and is like constantly like improving our like view of how disabled people play games and like how they want to be represented and stuff like that. The combat wheelchair is something that's very popular, but they also do a lot of work for example, Artel Saurian on things like Cyberpunk and The Witcher RPG and stuff like that. I think they also reached out recently to the person writing the Witcher TV show and sort of like gave them a new perspective on how like Geralt's injuries actually kind of speak more to disability than they do to just sort of like a generic injury and stuff like that. So like a lot of really, really cool stuff coming out of their workhouse and yeah, that's been really cool to see. So that's definitely one that deserves a mention, I think.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone specifically, because this kind of information stuff that I sometimes keep a directory in my head of. But I do remember when Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, and people were like, "Hey, this doesn't deal with the whole D&D race problem that well because you're sort of just dodging around it." There were a lot of people responding to that and basically pointing people towards, people of colour who had made like their own sort of character creation methods for D&D, and basically said, "Hey, these people who are not part of the Wizards of the Coast have done like a much better job of providing an alternative to what D&D kind of goes for." We do have a news piece on our website about that reaction, and there are people involved like Graham Barber, who has a blog where he's talked about, "Hey, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything doesn't do a great job." And like there were several other people involved in that discussion who were kind of saying, "Hey, go and these people have done this for free, basically." So yeah, probably a lot. I would recommend researching a lot of the creators, who have done that sort of thing, who have made like character creation that isn't racist.
Yeah. I think for my part, partly because of this job, I don't often get to stay with games long enough where I am so invested that I need third-party content, which is a shame because there's a lot of really great stuff out there, but it just happens to be that I'm moving between games relatively quickly. But I think I'll take this opportunity to just shout out Itch as a really good platform for a lot of that stuff, both complete games, but also there's so much on there that is just incredible kind of work, whether it's maps or like papercraft minifigures or modules and adventures, and that can be applied in a lot of cases to almost any game, and it's a very indie friendly platform. There's a lot of creativity. There are often bundles that are themed around certain kind of topics, whether it's kind of, here's a load of fantasy stuff, or here's kind of like like accessories for games rather than games themselves. So I think Itch is a really good platform for that stuff, and seems to do a better job of supporting smaller creators than websites such as DriveThruRPG, to my knowledge.
Well, speaking of DriveThruRPG, just as a quick shout as well for an RPG that we talk about a lot, which is Blaze in the Dark. There's a lot of like third-party stuff that's been made for Blades that you can find on the website, I think, which is quite cool. So there's like the Sleuth, which I think is like an extra character that archetype that you can play with and stuff like that. One thing that I've used myself though, from Old Dog Games, it says here on DriveThruRPG, is like a detailed street map pack. So Blaze in the Dark comes with like a sort of a map of Dustvoll, the city that you play in, but this goes into the minutia. So every single little street has a name, like everything like that. So you also can like break out each district into its own map and provide that to your players. So it's like a really, really like thematic and super detailed thing that you can use if you're sort of like looking around the city. To put on top of that as well, there's a person called Ryan Dunleavy who has a Patreon, and I think pretty much every month or so they post map packs of all kinds of little like tiny chunks of Dustfall. So you've got like, here's a tower, here's like a ship that you can heist, all that kind of stuff. Super detailed like D&D maps style if you're into that kind of thing, like if you use miniatures, all that kind of stuff. And you can sort of like subscribe to that Patreon, and I think it's like £8 a month or £4 a month. You get like a high res city map and stuff like that, which is really cool. So some other little bits.
Good stuff.
And I'm going to shove some links in the doc so that Matt can put them in.
Thank you. We'll take one last quick one. Meehan, could you read this one from Aoife Brennan, please?
Aoife says, do you have any advice for a first-time DM having to plan a campaign that's going to be played over Zoom? Any tools outside of D&D Beyond? Yeah, I would say, and again, like, I'm not an expert on Discord. I'm
You
not
say
an expert
again,
on a
but
lot of things.
that was from a call that we had this morning.
Yeah.
No, I say again in terms of, like I've said previously, I'm not an expert on this. So with a Discord server, you can use a bot. I think it's called Groovy Bot, and we use it when we play. So we play, RPGs over Discord, so not Zoom specifically. But with Groovy Bot, you can basically get it to play music for you, for everyone within the server that you're in simultaneously. Which means,
it's really good.
Yeah, which means that whenever you're in a particular part of the campaign, like whether it's like intense or whether it's a bit quieter, or if you want to create a certain atmosphere, then you can ensure that all your players are hearing the same track at the same time. And I think music does a lot to immerse people in the moment. Like it fills those quiet gaps where no one's talking and it kind of feels a bit awkward. And I think it encourages people to roleplay a bit more. It does wonders, I think, having a soundtrack to your campaign. So that's what I would recommend as a tool to you.
We have, so I have like a server, like a just little friend server on Discord that I'm in with my mates. And for whatever reason, they rename everyone who joins the server to Brother and then their name. So we renamed the music bot to Brother Bass, which is a fun little stupid tidbit from my life.
I think we get this question quite a lot, but it always bears repeating because it's a lot of people are playing D&D over video call at the moment. We have a whole guide on the website if you want to head over to the website. But here, I think it's worth just... The main thing is don't overplan, as with any RPG campaign, because it will never go the way you expect, and you don't want to pour a load of time and energy into something that then doesn't pan out. Have rough notes and reference material, but don't try and plot everything down to exactly what's going to happen. And particularly over video call, when you're just playing with friends, just allow for those like Meehan's right, that music helps with them, but allow for those little moments of people thinking, or people, you know, there'll be a delay from the video anyway, probably, even if it's just a half second or so. Things will be a little bit awkward. You know, don't expect it to be the same as being there in person, but if you can allow for that and just give people that extra leeway to, you know, just think for a moment, or maybe, you know, be quiet, or whatever it may be. Over video call, that's the thing. It's like, don't expect the same as an in-person experience, but you can certainly make it work for you if you're just, you know, you just let everyone know that you're comfortable with, like, you don't have to react immediately, you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to, you can just be audio. It's just making it as comfortable as possible.
Being on camera does help in terms of making sure that people don't talk over each other, which doesn't help with this podcast. Will's also imagining you having a soundboard during a D&D campaign, and everyone's just quiet because someone's just thinking of what to do, and then you just like go like wazzle, like singer.
Wazzle.
What's Wazzo?
Well, is this on a soundboard, or is this Will's himself?
Yeah, this is the soundboard that Will's has.
That's
like
it.
a
That's
slide
my new
whistle.
catchphrase. Wazzo.
Yeah,
It's
Wazzo.
You heard it here
You heard it
first.
here first, folks. You'll get the merch coming soon.
Wazzle.
Get Wazzo on a t-shirt.
All right, Lolies, anything on? What you say?
No, I've yet to do my. I've got nothing. I'm so like.
Oh, that's
I'm
alright.
So bad with being able to help like first time DMs, because I'm not even a first time DM. And yeah, I mean I know about Guru, but I think got nothing.
Soundboard.
Roll 20's good. Race free.
Yeah, Roll 20's alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's loads of little tools online. Give it a Google. But please keep listening to the podcast.
Yeah. I think that's the thing of, you know, if Roll20 is what you want for your group, like if you are using a lot of miniatures, it can be good for that. If people just prefer, even if you're currently using, or you did use miniatures in the before times, when you were playing in person, you know, it might be that you decide that actually just a video call is fine and you don't want to overcomplicate it. That's the thing. It's like, just be flexible. It's the main kind of underline here. Don't expect it to be the same experience.
If you want to be really fancy, you could always like have an extra camera set up and like have a full-on grid map, like, and have miniatures representing each of the like players, and just do it that way if you really want to, like, do, you know, use a map and miniatures but don't want to deal with the clunkiness of you know, potential clunkiness of digital versions. Or like Tabletop Simulator also has like you know, tools for you to build that.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It is possible.
Everything
but
is possible.
Be like, basically just be kind to yourselves. Don't expect to go in and have everything be exactly the same if you've run before.
You've lost them.
Feels like that's about time for the podcast to end, doesn't it? Before we close out, thank you for your
title now.
Thank you for your emails. Thank you for writing in. Again, you can reach us at podcast@dicebreaker.com if you do have a question for us. Before we leave you, Wills and Lolies, from the video side, what have we got coming up, or what will already be up by the time folks listen to this?
Well.
You're definitely not filling in time.
I'm so glad you asked, Matt Jarvis, whom I love and adore.
It would be so heartwarming if it didn't just feel like you're buying time.
Well, as we said on this very podcast, the sort of 2 days before this goes live, we will have put out a "You've Never Played Lost Cities" video with me and Matt.
Feet Matt.
So if you want to, if you want to see me trounce.
Yeah, don't watch till the first. Just watch the first 2 rounds and then close the video. It's fine. We're happy with that.
No, we're not. Watch it 3 times.
We are
please.
also Alex Lolies. We're doing a very special stream.
Oh right, okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Saturday.
We'll have done.
We will have done a very special caption contest stream, won't we? Michael Wheels Wheelan.
Yeah. Pretty excited. I threw it over to you, but thank you for throwing it directly back. We're doing a little hosting tennis match here. But yeah, so we're gonna be drawing stupid pictures, and it's up to you in the chat to do the captions.
Hopefully.
Except it would have already happened. So go and enjoy that. See some of the stupid.
Do you
jokes
know what you
we've got.
can
We've got-
enjoy in the future, though?
Yes.
This is
Uh-huh.
very exciting. Tomorrow, aka Saturday, the 6th of March, Dungeon Breaker returns!
Oh my goodness!
That's
That's
right.
Tim's job.
That's right. Dungeon Breaker's back, and then the day after that, you can see me and Johnny play the original version of Summoner Wars as a you've never played.
I didn't get to
And
play
then
any
maybe-
games this week.
Well, maybe me and Lolies will be playing the new version via digital on the week after, so have a little look out for that as well.
Yeah.
Also, on the 9th of March, it's my birthday, so
Oh my
wow.
god!
Happy birthday,
It's
Wills.
Honey's
for
birthday on the
them.
10th.
I know. I remember I was like, I'm not getting upstaged by a cat, Lolies.
And I
there you
believe
go.
you'll be doing a painting stream next Thursday as well.
Yes.
We will.
Yes.
You
So
will.
Tune in for that. Yeah, you will.
It will
welcome
happen.
on that.
You know what? Maybe me and I will swing by.
Yeah, I'll pop in for like 2 seconds and go, "What's-o?" and then like, leave.
What's-o?
So, yeah, your famous catchphrase that everyone expects.
yeah,
We'll get some of that audience laughter to play
yeah,
Can't
yeah,
a second
yeah.
afterwards.
Right.
And the clapping as you kind of
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
They love it. They can't get enough of it.
Featuring Wazzo the Wombat as himself.
Is that me?
Meanwhile, anyway, on the website, we will have potentially, maybe this week, maybe next. It's been a busy couple of weeks in Dicebreaker Land. Alex, Meehan, you mentioned last week, I think, on the podcast, playing Chroma.
Yeah.
And at some point, we may have a write-up of that, or you'll be doing something with that, because you've
yeah, I'll
taken
be
a look
doing
at it.
something. You know me, I'll be doing something.
Expect some kind of look at Chroma, which sounds interesting. Which is like it's like a tile placement, color changing game, right? It's like
Yeah.
big old light, little color
Big
pieces.
old light.
Yeah.
It's a tile placing code changing.
We already up on the site as of today, which is Wednesday. I'm losing track of time. We have Amy Proudman writing on gender identity and D&D, which is a very good piece. Would recommend you go and read it. We already have Charlie Phil, who's rounded up the best World War II games. We had last week, but it missed the podcast because it went up afterwards. Chase spoke to the folks behind the Avatar: The Last Airbender RPG, and squeezed some new information out about it, including
It's
the
brutal.
fact it's been set across
Juicy orange.
five different playable periods in the Avatar verse, and how bending will work, which is exciting for those of us that really like Avatar and Korra, which is
Yeah.
probably me on this podcast, but it
Yeah.
should be all of us.
Well, come on, don't judge. What
No,
else?
it's a really good show.
What else
Apart
went
from
out?
the first series of Korra.
What else went out last week, Mr. Jarvis?
Your review of Overboss is what I assume you're referring to.
There was something else as well, wasn't there?
There was
Matt
something
Jarvis?
else. Oh, is this the D&D movie thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
If
look,
you
there's
like-
so much good stuff that sometimes it's a long list of getting through to it. Yes,
If you like hearing about the D&D film, which you must do if you listen to this podcast.
you've come this far.
Yeah, I did a list of what the new film should do in order to be good. Not on that list is Danny DeVito, unfortunately.
Sorry, Danny.
He's in spirit.
Yeah, I mean, Danny DeVito's in the spirit of everything we do, really, to some degree.
Yeah.
But yes, there'll be lots more coming up. We'll have lots more on both youtube.com/Dicebreaker and Dicebreaker.com. But until we meet again, thank you for being here. Wheels, I was thinking of a variation on your name. I've just gone with plain old Wheels this time. Thanks, Wheels.
It's me, plain old Wheels. Thanks for having me.
Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels himself.
Weichel Wheels Wheel. No.
Hot birthday Wheels.
Weichel Meals.
Will-
Weichel Meals Mealand.
Sure. Thanks for being. Thank you for being here, Alex Meehan.
What a... What a... No, it's great.
Thanks very much, Alex Lolies, for
Thank
joining
you
us.
for having me. I'll try and be normal in my outro. Thank you.
I've been Matt Jarvis. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there. We will be back next Friday with another Dicebreaker podcast. But until then, even messed up on the last sentence. It's fine. Until then, have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.